Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Some seem to think Dan Campbell coached the Lions out of the Super Bowl, but would he do it all over again? And what's next for the Lions? Also, can the Knicks win the East? And it just feels like the Warriors are done. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
Perhaps more than one Lions fan looked into Vegas hotels at halftime on Sunday of the NFC Championship game, with the Lions holding a 24-7 lead. But you know what happened from there. 27 consecutive points until the Lions got 7 at the end to make this one a little bit closer at the end. A 34-31 heartbreak for Detroit in the greatest season in modern Lions history. Matt Derry joins me now from Locked On Lions. And Matt, the fourth down conversation is the only one anyone wants to have about this Lions team and really this Lions season now. How fair do you think that part of this is?
I think it's fair to bring up. It's pretty obvious that many people that had not watched the Lions all season, you being excluded, Pete, I know you have, but they just are like dumbfounded that someone doesn't kick a field goal, when reality is that, especially in deep, inside the other team's 30, Dan Campbell and the Lions did a really good job on fourth downs this year and going for it and getting it. They had two of the better players in the league when it comes to clutch, catching the football, possessing it, and getting that first down, and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta. Well, the problem that the Lions had last night was they went to the wrong people in that spot. Josh Reynolds with a key drop, the second fourth down call down 3, electing not to kick a 47-yard field goal with Michael Badgley, who, by the way, hadn't kicked a 47-yard field goal outdoors all season. All right. And then they run a play with no back in the backfield, an empty set with Goff. I thought it was a terrible decision. I would have called a timeout and put Gibbs or Montgomery back there just to show the defense a fear, a threat of a running play. So I thought that was a bigger issue to me than the actual going for it routine. They probably are going to have to get a kicker that they can rely on for next season, so that when there is a 47-yarder on the road and the hostile conditions outdoors, that they would feel more comfortable. But I defend Dan Campbell a little bit today. I just think the execution was poor.
Yeah, easier said than done. The Packers had a missed field goal in the divisional round that ultimately cost them the game. In that one would have been a tie game at the end instead of them having to go down and try and kick a field goal. So Dan Campbell said after the game, look, we might it's going to be harder next year to do this again. And you think, well, it's a young team and come on, they built this cool thing, but they might be losing Ben Johnson. They're going to have to pay Jared Goff a lot of money. Caleb Williams could be in the division. We saw what the Packers were able to do. What is the outlook for this team now moving forward? And could we be sitting here in 6-8 months going, man, the Lions really, really missed an opportunity here?
I don't think there's any question about it that they missed an opportunity, but I'm shaking in my boots over those Bears. No, I just did that for you. No, I do think.
Sorry, Lauren Cox, our pal, Locked On Bears.
I do think the Bears will be better. I do think the Vikings, if Cousins comes back, they'll be better. I mean, come on, their quarterback play was so poor. Obviously, the Packers are really onto something here with Jordan Love and that offense. It is going to be more difficult, but you know what? I think there were times this year that the Lions played down to the level of their competition with a poor schedule this year, getting a chance to play some bad teams in the NFC South and some ones that struggled in the AFC West, including getting easy wins over teams like Denver and Vegas at home. So, yeah, next year's schedule is more difficult. They got to go back to San Francisco. They got Stafford coming back again with the Rams. So there's going to be some tough games. But I think with this young team, this young nucleus, Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, Gibbs, Jamison Williams, all these guys coming back, I think they're going to be all right. I think Ben Johnson's leaving. Like you said, I think he's going to get the Washington job. And there will be some attrition on the coaching staff. But I think they can get better. I think their secondary is weak and they can strengthen it in the draft. That's where Brad Holmes does, really ices that cake. So, and free agency. Guys want to come play for Dan Campbell. So I think they're going to be all right. But yes, did they miss an opportunity? Absolutely. You're up 17 on the road and the NFC Championship game, a chance to get to the Super Bowl the first time ever. I'm sure they're kicking themselves today.
Stay up to date all year on the Detroit Lions by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Lions on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, has OG Anunoby made the Knicks contenders for the Eastern Conference crown? Before we get to that, the Chargers are narrowing in on a general manager. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime has plenty of last-minute tickets for your favorite team. They also make it easy to get in the gate with flash deals and zone deals. Gametime makes it easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. They've got views from all the seats in the venue. Gametime has the lowest price guaranteed. Guaranteed. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Right now, all Gametime users get $100 off a big game ticket with code VEGAS100. Terms do apply. Just download the Gametime app and use code VEGAS, VEGAS 100 for $100 off that big ticket. Or if you're not going to the game, use code LOCKED ON for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. The Boston Celtics struggled at home with the New Orleans Pelicans on Monday, but came away with a win.
So let's look at the positives, right? One day after I do a show where a lot of y'all were with me here talking about how I'm really not sure that Zion and Brandon Ingram can kind of coexist anymore. If BI's not going to shoot threes, if the spacing's just not going to be there for Zion, and things kind of looked a mess against the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Milwaukee Bucks. Then on the road, you go into Boston, a team that has only lost twice at home so far this season. Boston is 35-11, by the way. They have the third best offense, the third best defense, the best net rating in the league. They've basically been the title favorite all season long. And you took it to that team. You hung with them. You played good defense on Jaylen Brown, on Jason Tatum. You had Zion Williamson going. You had Brandon Ingram going. And you just saw overall, all-around improvement.
And the T-Wolves travel to face the Thunder in a battle of the top two Western Conference teams. Yeah, that's a real sentence.
You know, the last time these two teams played in the same building, it turned into a laugher, 129-106 OKC. But tonight, Wolves flipped the script. They got their revenge. They held one of the best offenses in the entire NBA to just 101 points. What a fun game, start to finish. It really felt like an absolute war for 4 straight quarters, man. You could tell just how badly both teams wanted it. And you know, it's funny. You go into halftime with about as even of a box score and team stats as maybe you'll ever see. Nonetheless, Wolves win it 107-101. They get their swag back a little bit, find their mojo again, take the lead back, more importantly, in the Western Conference. Huge night, huge game.
And the defending champs took on Giannis and the new-look Milwaukee Bucks with new head coach Doc Rivers.
The trust, you know, it goes in and out. It's in the flux. You know, it's funny. It's what I saw from afar. It was really interesting. This is exactly what I saw from TV, you know, sitting on the couch. And the good news there, you know, is very fixable because you have guys that want to get it right. So, listen, Dame and Giannis have played 40 games together in their life. You know, Joker and Murray have played. You know, and if you looked at the game tonight down the stretch, they had it going. Our guys couldn't get it going, and that was the difference.
The LA Chargers are making it a family thing. The Chargers are working to hire Baltimore Ravens Director of Player Personnel Joe Ortiz as their general manager, which means Ortiz will go from working with John Harbaugh to working with Jim Harbaugh. And that relationship will be among the biggest questions that Harbaugh and the team's leadership will have to answer. Most importantly, who has the final say in personnel decisions? It was well documented that Harbaugh and 49ers GM Trent Baalke had a fractured relationship in Harbaugh's last foray into NFL coaching. Baalke is the GM in Jacksonville now. The Chiefs will be one pass rusher down heading into the Super Bowl. Defensive end Charles Omenihu tore his ACL on Sunday in the AFC Championship game. Omenihu appeared to confirm the news via his Twitter account, X, posting an emoji of a broken heart. Omenihu had a career-high 7 sacks this season, his first with the Chiefs, despite missing the first 6 games of the season with a suspension. He had a strip sack of Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson on Sunday before leaving with that injury. They're the hottest team in basketball, but questions still remain with the New York Knicks, who've won 7 in a row, including a 113-92 beatdown of the Charlotte Hornets without Julius Randle or OG Anunoby. They won 13 of their last 15 games. Alex Wolf from Locked On Knicks joins me now. And Alex, Julius Randle sounds like he's going to be out a couple weeks here with a separated shoulder. We still don't quite know the timeline on that one, but that raises even more questions about how the Knicks should be handling this trade deadline. As you look at this team as currently constituted, how pressing of a need do you think there is to make a move now with this team?
I think there is still a pressing need to make a move, but I don't think it's to address the Randle injury. I think it's to still address the hole in the roster that the Knicks need to address, which is the secondary, or not secondary, but like, I guess just another creator that can play off the bench. And, you know, they've had their eyes on Malcolm Brogdon. There's been some links to Jordan Clarkson. Terry Rozier could have been a target, but obviously just got traded to the Heat. There's a number of other options out there, but Brogdon seems to, well, I guess DeJounte Murray, if they want to take a little more of a swing, and take a little more superstar upside, but a little more volatile of a player. But I think that's still probably going to be their priority going into the trade deadline. Getting a guy, any one of those 3 guys, if they would go out and get them, has money on the books going into next year. They can still be around, so if things take a turn for the worse and he's not able to come back this year for whatever reason, as he rehabs this shoulder, then they still have that player going into next year. I think they're willing to just kind of roll the dice and see how things go, though, as far as replacing Julius's minutes. It was a really interesting lineup choice tonight to go with Precious Achiuwa out there. But I think on an ordinary night where they had OG Anunoby available, it would have been Josh Hart subbing into that Randle spot. And obviously you lose a bunch of size that way, but rebounding wise, he's still really good. Defensively, he can certainly hold up to 4s and stuff like that. So I think they're going to probably just go that direction. Maybe you run into a situation where if they're dealing with Portland or with Utah or with Atlanta or whomever else, that they're just kind of like, hey, can we get another power forward type player back in this deal? If there's a small salary on those teams that they're willing to throw in to kind of just provide a little extra depth there while they wait for Randle to get back. But I don't know, things are looking pretty good. Like their schedule is easy. It's as easy as it's going to be from now until about the All-Star break. And then obviously you have the All-Star break, which will give Randle some more time to heal. So hopefully it's more of like a 3-4 week situation, not a 5, 6, 7, 8 week situation. But unfortunately, it's a sort of a volatile injury, and we won't really know till he starts rehabbing it.
Yeah, you mentioned OG Anunoby and his impact on the team. I mentioned that 13 of 15 record at the top. That is with OG Anunoby. They have been a fundamentally different team with him on the court. How has he impacted this team the most, would you say?
Obviously, the defensive end. I mean, that's that's just what he does. I mean, he's
also
crazy.
Shooting the lights out.
Yeah, but you sort of expected that, you know what I mean? Like based off his career numbers, he's going to shoot like almost 40% from 3. Granted, he's been shooting better than that with the Knicks, but he's showing some new stuff on offense too, which is great. Like he keeps kind of bringing out like one new thing or so every game. Like he's starting to do a little bit off the dribble. And like, I still think you kind of have to get him going downhill. I keep saying he's like a running back. Like you have to like get him a handoff when he's already in motion to make things work. But as long as you do that, like suddenly he can bust out a dribble move or something, as long as he's already moving by the time he gets the ball. If he has to do stuff from a standstill, it's a little iffy. But he's been doing great with that, getting to the rim. He's an elite level vertical athlete as far as like getting to the rim, dunking, like just, I mean, it's things that maybe other teams take for granted, but on the Knicks, they've had a lot of ground bound guys that don't necessarily have those ups. And so it's like a big revelation to have a wing that can get in there and just like jam it and just like go up powerful with 2 hands and throw it down. So that's been great. But then on the defensive end, just the pressure that he creates, the transition opportunities with his length and the ability to just get in the passing lanes and start those fast breaks, his ability to finish those fast breaks once he gets going. And then also just his switchability. I mean, he's shown the ability to, the Knicks avoid switches as much as they can, but no matter what, they happen in the NBA. And any player that has had the misfortune of having OG switched onto them has just had their life turned into a living hell.
Stay up to date all year on the New York Knicks by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Knicks on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Warriors just look done. The NFL playoffs rage on, and now's the perfect time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, what are you waiting for? The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, teasers, and more. There's also weekly promos and boosts to give you plenty of opportunities to increase your payout. One of the player prop specials for the Super Bowl involves Chris Jones and Nick Bosa. If each of those players get at least a half sack, you win. FanDuel has the odds on that at 2-1. You can also combine bets for a bigger payout, same game parlays, a great way to enjoy watching sports. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and do the NFL season right. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. The Warriors seemingly haven't taken the next step into the next generation. While Steph Curry still scores at will, the rest of the team is lagging behind. This has Locked On host Nick Angstad and Adam Mares thinking Golden State is toast.
Yeah, it does feel like this Warriors team is done. Like they get beat by this team and the Kings, who are not as good as they were last year, but still very good. And I don't know what's next for the Warriors. Like, where do they turn to? Like, is a Wiggins trade to get somebody better than Wiggins? Like, does that even take them to another level? It just doesn't seem like there's a move to be made, right?
I mean, the whole thing was you got Draymond back. They obviously had a tragedy earlier in the week.
Yeah, huge.
And so you have all this going on where it just feels like, for me at least, it feels like a reset of sorts to say, okay, let's stabilize. And tonight was just one of those games where it felt like they had a real chance to win and real chance to pull it out, and they came up short. And the road doesn't get easier. You got the Lakers coming up. You got Philadelphia right after that. So you have some tough games before I don't know if it's going to get easier on the immediate horizon. So I don't know. You are right, though, that we do this a lot where we'll talk about, because the Warriors being done and losing in this heartbreaking fashion and falling to 1923 when every game is so important for them now. It's a big story. But there is the other side of this, which is that Sacramento getting a win in Golden State for the first time since 2020 and getting 22 3-pointers to do it. It's really big for them as much as it is a big story for the Warriors. It's big for the Kings.
Let me add this caveat. Golden State is toast if they are committed to this version of the Warriors. The version with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. If they have to win with those guys, it looks like they're done winning because they're not getting enough from Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody and the ancillary pieces that were part of the two-track philosophy that the Warriors were trying to put forward. But if they're willing to deal Draymond Green or Klay Thompson and get pieces back that can help them win now, maybe they can get back on that two-track plan and continue to win with Steph Curry. Maybe not this year. They probably can't win the title this year. But if you can get some good young players for Draymond Green, some future assets, maybe you can spin this forward and make another run with Steph Curry. This version of the Warriors, I hate to say all the winning that they've done, that they're just done. They sure look done. And finally, a prominent airline company has added 2 specific flights for fans from Kansas City to go to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. The plane to Vegas is flight 1989, of course, paying homage to Taylor Swift, while the return flight is flight 87, Travis Kelce's jersey number. Kansas City Chiefs fans are still in their Super Bowl era and can travel to the big game in style. All's well that ends well if you end up at the Super Bowl. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, which team needs to make a move the most at the NBA trade deadline? So at least until tomorrow, Stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.